It's springtime. It means college football is still a little bit of ways. We're out here battling, though. I've got a bug that I'm fighting. William's out here becoming a head coach
on
accident of the future world champion T-ball team.
Can I say this? Just a future life tip. Jake helped me out, and I've heard this from my dad too. If you're not interested in coaching a T-ball team, don't ever say you want to help. Wanting to help means you are going to be announced as the head coach. So just a little insight. My son is about to start T-ball, and I said, hey, I'm willing to help out. Whoever's a coach, get me in contact. I'll help him out. A week later, I want y'all to thank Coach Cockrell for helping out and yada, yada. Like, whoa. I'm not helping myself out. I'm trying to help out somebody else. So apparently I'm the head coach, like you said, of the national championship T-ball team. So
yeah, future champion, world champion T-ball team.
My son said he's going to hit dingers. I'm like, well, we'll see how that happens with T-ball, but I love the mindset.
You know, baseball is known for its trades, and we had our first college football trade happen, unofficial, but our first college football trade happen ever.
Yep, Arkansas.
UCLA sent Nico Iamaleava for Joey Aguilar, 2 quarterbacks traded, and then Arkansas sent Madden Iamaleava for cash considerations.
For cash considerations. It was a 3-team trade. The ADs over in Arkansas are dipping into some muddy waters, but rightfully so. Like I said, we said this when all this NIL stuff started to happen. These rich people who are boosters are not rich for no reason. They're going to get tired of people stealing their money, essentially. So we're about to see what happens with it. This is the most public NIL situation we've ever seen. But like you said, it's essentially a trade. And Jake, have you seen the numbers between Joey Aguilar as a first-year starter and Nico Iamaleava as a first-year starter and how similar they are?
I have not looked too much into Joey Aguilar. I know he was at App State, went to UCLA, was expected to be the starter. Then obviously Nico, transfers over. So I have not looked that much. I know we talked a lot about Nico, but supposedly Tennessee fans weren't super pumped about Joey Aguilar because he's not even going to be there until like June because he has to finish classes.
Mm-hmm.
And UCLA is on quarters, so they're not even finishing until like Memorial Day. So he's still got a little bit of time until before he even gets over to Knoxville.
Well, and who's to say he's coming over to be a backup, a package guy? I mean, he's going there to battle for Jake Mecklenburger, whatever his name is.
Well, because Aguilar's only got 1 year left, so you got to make the most out of it at this point.
Right. And I mean, I don't know why you'd be upset. It's nothing but you have nothing to lose by bringing him into the quarterback room. And if anything, like Aguilar is a great athlete. He plays a hard-nosed style of football, and he can sling the rock. He plays very confidently, borderline reckless at times, but he's super fun to watch. And I mean, he kind of reminds me. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not calling him Baker Mayfield. So before people blow this up,
so he's Baker Mayfield and a Heisman.
Yes, right. He plays similarly to Baker Mayfield. And do y'all remember who the offense coordinator was for Baker Mayfield over at Oklahoma?
Was it
Josh Heupel? Josh Heupel. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean Tennessee had to get a quarterback.
No. Baker. Yeah, no. Heupel was there. Heupel left the year before Baker Mayfield, so I take that back. His last year was my junior year. We beat him that was his last game. Was the Russell Athletic Bowl. Never mind.
Tennessee had to go get a quarterback though, because they only had 2. They only had 2 on the roster, and neither with real playing experience. So at minimum,
one's a true freshman.
At minimum, it gives them an experienced starter.
Yeah,
that they can throw out there week 1, whether he plays the whole season or not, whether he is the starter or it's just a veteran backup. You needed one for depth. You couldn't go into the season with 2 scholarship quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny too, like to switch it over to Nico. After he had trouble finding a team, which we figured would happen with the asking price, he pivoted from, hey, I'm not leaving from – I say his camp. We don't know who's saying these things. His camp pivoted from they wanted $4 million to, well, Tennessee's offense sucks. Jake, we live in a social media world. We have the internet at all of our fingertips. it is very easy to access tape. It's also very easy to access stats. You want to guess what UCLA's total offense rank was last year? I know they have a different offensive coordinator, but
it was probably almost last in the Big Ten, if it was not last in the Big Ten.
it was 118th in the country.
Probably second to
probably
last.
last in the Big. Probably
no. There's a Big
Iowa.
10. I was like, there's got to be one or two Big Ten slow. Like, there's got to be some boring Big Ten offenses. So they're probably like 15th.
Yeah. So really bad. Tennessee was a top 15 offense last year, and not because of Nico, but because of Dylan Sampson. And then another thing that I noticed too, and I'm sorry, I'm getting long-winded here, but the thing that shocked me the most, or told me the most, however you want to look at it, how many wide receivers entered the transfer portal from Tennessee when Nico put his name in the transfer portal?
Like from Tennessee? Yeah, none. They lost Squirrel White and maybe one other
way back in the winter. Winter period.
But Mike Matthews was a 5-star, entered the portal and ended up coming back. Yeah. So like Tennessee's got wide receivers. There's some guys that can play. I'm wondering if the Iamaleava camp and UCLA, because since Madden kind of flipped at the last second on them and went to Arkansas, if they were like, yeah, we'll take Nico, but we want Madden too. So we want to make sure that we have a future at quarterback here and kind of, force them both to come to UCLA rather than just one of them.
I saw a funny meme about that. It showed a UCLA home game, and it said there's about to be more Iamaleavas in the stadium than UCLA fans. But I mean, good for them. I hope Joey Aguilar does well. I hope Tennessee plays UCLA in a bowl game or a playoff game. It won't be a playoff game in my opinion. But
you're assuming that UCLA makes a bowl game.
That's true. That's true. Nico's the truth. He's going into a better offense. Jake. Josh Heupel's high flying.
Nico gets to go back to Columbus this year.
Oh, he does. Revenge tour?
I saw a couple people saying they better bring some extra helmets for him this year.
It won't be as cold, I don't think.
No, well, it is a November game, though, so shouldn't be as cold, but
we'll be chilly.
Still,
we'll be nippy.
Still not sure what we're going to get out of them. I mean, UCLA is just it's an average program. Anybody who thinks that UCLA is this like big historic program, they're really not. UCLA is a middle of the road career program, has made a handful of big bowl games in their lifetime. But
when's the last time they were relevant? I mean, even when they had Josh Rosen, they weren't even.
The last time UCLA finished, so since 2015, I guess if you really want to go this far, since 2000 they finished in the top 10 once, and they've only finished ranked 4 times. 2014 under Jim Mora, they went 10-3,
and that was Josh Rosen.
Was that Josh Rosen? I don't remember if that's Josh Rosen or not.
No,
might have been. No, I think he was like 2017, 2016. Yeah.
That was the Texas A&M game. That was an awesome game.
Yes. But since 2000, they've only finished ranked 4 times.
Yeah, that's insane. That's probably back when Deshaun Foster was playing there.
Honestly, yes. It was.
But we're going to get some playoff games in LA. They might not be played by UCLA, but they will be played in LA. We got some.
They'll be playing in UCLA Stadium.
Yeah, so they got that going for them.
1 hour earlier for the Rose Bowl this year.
Yeah, woo! We get to see the sunset though. That's pretty good. I like that. 4 p.m. though. 4 p.m. on a month.
Yeah, 4 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. I guess they made comments because their games have run over so frequent that they wanted to start it a little bit earlier so they don't. Because the Sugar Bowl already starts late. It already starts at like 8:45.
Right.
If we're holding it up because of the Rose Bowl, now it's 9 ridiculous. Afterwards. Like we're pushing midnight. Us East Coast people aren't trying to be up until midnight.
ECP. Hey, and still have a Monday national championship. So obviously our podcast is not a national championship game on a Monday. So obviously our podcast is not reaching the correct years because we need a national championship on a freaking Saturday as God intended it to be.
I don't mind the semifinal games being on Thursday night and Friday night.
I don't either. Those are college football days.
But Thursday night game, Friday night, 2 separate days. Like I'm perfectly fine with that because you're not going to get a Saturday for a semifinal game. It's just not going to happen.
No, I like Thursday, Friday for that. And listen to this: if a MAC team ever makes it, when they make it, their playoff game needs to be played on Wednesday.
That's why a MAC team will win the national championship because they're used to playing on Mondays.
That's right.
Speaking of MAC, this is just a side note. Do you know the Kent State women's golf team has never lost a MAC championship? They've won 26 in a row.
Holy crap. Are they
that's a true dynasty? That is
a dynasty. Yeah.
26 in a row. The MAC has only sponsored women's golf for 26 years, and Kent State has won every single one of them.
So everything I've said bad about Kent State, Cole, I'm sorry. Can't read, can't write, Kent State, but they can't golf. They can golf. Excuse me, not can't golf.
Just the women, though.
Just the women.
The men's team, I think, is good. I think there's a couple of guys on the PGA Tour, but the women's team won 26 MAC championships in a row. Ridiculous.
So not Kent, but Barbie. We can't golf, but Barbie can.
Yeah. Not Ken, Barbie. There you go. In other big news, we will have one more College Game Day episode with Lee Corso. Just one more. He's retiring after his initial episode, the first episode, which I think is good.
Yeah.
You get a chance, everybody gets to honor him. They're going to do all sorts of things about him. They're going to play all sorts of videos, recapping the history. Oh, it's going to be, yeah.
I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry the entire time.
I'll be cutting onions the whole time.
Yeah.
I think it's great. There's a lot of speculation. Will he go to Florida State for Alabama, Florida State, his alma mater? Or is he going to go to Texas, Ohio State, where he put on the very first headgear in Columbus?
Or will he go to Clemson? Clemson LSU.
I would take a wild guess, not Clemson.
I think that would be third in the odds.
I think it'd be third. My guess is they go to Columbus because the headgear has been so important to the show. I understand he went to Florida State, but the headgear has been synonymous with him at this point. Right. And the very first one was him putting Brutus on back in 1996. It just makes sense to put the first one, the last one on, be the same ones.
Did Ohio State win that game?
Can they? 96? Oh, I think they did. Is Ohio State?
While you look that up, I want to say, Lee Corso, although he's been like a staple of College Game Day, you could tell mentally he's deteriorated. And it's
Ohio State won 38-7.
That's a good omen then. He's kind of deteriorated from his health, physically, mentally. He's not who he used to be on the show anymore. No. I mean, he struggles to get out sentences, and it's sad because he's holds so many of my childhood core memories. I mean, I remember playing NCAA and asking Corso to pick plays. I mean, I remember fall mornings watching College Game Day and just waiting for Lee Corso to make his pick on bated breath. That's what you look forward to. And if your team was College Game Day and you got to see your team potentially get the headgear put on, it was unbelievable. He brought so much to college football that so many people haven't been able to do. And he is what has made College Game Day what it is. And you can't replicate that. And no. I honestly, I hope no one tries to do the headgear after him, at least not for a while, because it won't be the same. I have a feeling they're going to try and have Pat McAfee do it, which I like Pat McAfee, whatever. He's not Lee Corso. And they bring two totally different things to the table. Lee Corso is a gem of a human. He's a gem of a commentator. Just hats off to him. A wonderful career, a wonderful life. And it's a bittersweet. It's going to be a bittersweet day, Jake.
I think everybody feels the same, that everybody kind of felt it was time because he had struggled. He had a stroke a couple of years ago, had been struggling to get the words out over the last couple seasons for sure. But same thing is,
go ahead.
Early 2000s, he really started to build up what College Game Day was. Like him and Kirk Herbstreit really started to develop and build up what College Game Day is and has become a staple with college football fans. And, like you said, I remember going to my first College Game Day. I remember going to it. I remember seeing him put on headgear. I remember Saturday morning sitting around waiting for, the headgear. The last 15 minutes are always the highlight, and I still would try to catch it. But, it's time, and I don't think anybody's going to try to. like you said, I like Pat McAfee. I think he's got his own sense of humor, but just trying to replicate the headgear thing will feel too forced, and I don't think it'll sit well with the community.
Yeah, pivot the show to have Nick Saban do a segment instead of the headgear where he talks about what he takes. I think it's called the Coach's Corner or whatever he calls it. I love that segment. I think it's phenomenal. And another thing too, like no matter how you feel about Kirk Herbstreit and all of his takes with college football, generally I think he has good takes, but he's had a couple ones that people don't like. Watching him and how he's taking care of Lee Corso, I don't care what you think about Kirk Herbstreit. He's an amazing human. And you can see that and how he treats Lee Corso on that set. I mean, he treats him like he's his dad and takes such good care of him. Makes sure like when he can't get sentences out, he finishes it for him or takes over. Like he just takes such good care of him. It's just wonderful to see that we still have people like that in the sports industry.
Kirk made it clear that Lee is still right there with it. He knows the game just as well. It's the enunciating and communicating the part out to like when they're in a back room talking about it, he still gets the game, still understands it very well. It's not like the game has passed him by, but it's the communication portion for him now, which ultimately you're on television, you're an entertainer. Basically, if you can't communicate, it's hard to be able to be up on stage.
Right.
But I think that first episode, I think that's a great way to go out. I was always wondering when it was going to happen and how they were going to do it, if they were going to just wait till the end. I think doing the very first game of the year, because since you don't have a ton of storylines to talk about, you're kind of just talking about the offseason. You've got plenty of spaces to fill. You can talk about the other games, but you can spend 1-2 hours just highlighting and talking about Lee Corso. And you got all summer to plan it out too.
Yeah, and it'll give us a nice break from them having them glazing Ohio State before we watch that game. I'm already over it.
The reigning national champions.
Never heard of them.
Speaking of some champions, let's jump into Big 12 this week. We're going to do our Big 12's contenders, pretenders, sleepers, and dumpster fires this week.
Yeah. If anybody has a grasp of the Big 12 this year, please reach out to us. We would love to hear your takes on the Big 12 because this might be the most wild. I mean, they're the wild, wild west, literally and figuratively.
So usually the win totals got a couple teams that are favored. So William went in, for us in our sheet and put in all the win totals. And usually you've got some teams that are pretty high and some teams that are pretty low. Teams that are only expected to win 3 or 4 games, some teams that are expected to win 10 games. Every team is between 5.5 and 8.5. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. So basically you're saying every team could make a bowl game, but every team could also miss a bowl game.
Right.
So I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with this conference. Last year, Utah was supposed to win it, and they were terrible. Oklahoma State was supposed to be good, and they won like 3 games. And then BYU just came out of nowhere and won, was at one point the clear-cut favorite. Colorado almost backdoored their way in, and Arizona State just kind of
Arizona State was picked last. I think they were picked to finish last in the conference last year.
And they just worked their way through the conference and eventually made it to the Big 12 championship game. And with this year, I mean, it feels the same. We can talk about who is going to be the contenders. I'll be very curious to see what the media poll is this summer for all these teams, because I think you're going to see a bunch of teams get first place votes from the media poll.
Oh yeah, you're not going to have a unanimous decision by any means,
but not even close. So contender, we both agree on this one. Both have Arizona State as a contender. I think it's pretty obvious.
I think the biggest reason, Jake, is Jordan Tyson's coming back. I know Sam Levitt's there, and I know they're losing Cam Scadabo. But Jordan Tyson, people forget because he got hurt so late in the season last year. He got hurt in a trash game towards the end. Forget who they were beating the bricks off of somebody, and they kept him in too long. He got hurt, whatever. But Jordan Tyson comes back. They're returning 4 out of 5 offensive linemen, and they're only losing 3 starters on that defense. I mean, they're essentially bringing the same team back.
Yeah. Sometimes there's concerns that I would say that it's a little bit different because since they made it to the playoff, they were really close to beating Texas. Really felt like they probably should have beat Texas and should have made the semifinals. So you can play the chip on your shoulder. Sometimes you see teams, they bring back so much, like Oklahoma State the year prior. We thought they were going to bring back a ton, and they were going to walk through it, and then they went 3-9.
Yeah, they have a hangover. And I will say, one thing that scares me, so I have him in the contenders section because I believe in what Kenny Dillingham is doing, and I believe in Sam Levitt. But man, I think you're going to see an offense struggle without Cam Scatterbo.
You can't replace him easily.
No, you can't. And that takes off so much pressure from a quarterback. It takes off so much pressure from the running back. This is why this league is such a crapshoot. Last week we talked the ACC. Both of us were chalk on who we had, and it was clear cut. It's like, hey, this is why. I mean, there was no argument. I have Arizona State here. You have Arizona State here. But if you had him as a pretender, I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you because the lack of Cam Scatterbo, again, you're going to feel that.
We saw what he did against Texas. He was catching multiple passes, had over 100 yards receiving, over 100 yards rushing. I mean, he won MVP of the game, and they lost.
Yeah, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. We were laughing at him, and he did exactly
we were laughing at him, and through the first half, they were stopping him. And then, he was throwing passes, catching, rushing all over the place. The NFL draft is tomorrow night, and somebody should be taking him because that is a culture guy that is going to work his tail off.
There's no way he makes it out of the second round. 0% chance.
He should be going. You have another contender here. I was too scared to put another contender on this list.
I wanted to do two just because we did two last week, and I think I might have a soft spot for Iowa State, but I like Rocco Beck's coming back. I like Rocco Beck. Abu Sama III is still there. Now, he's listed as the backup right now, and he struggled a little bit last year. But if you go back 2 years ago, Abu Sama III was a menace in the backfield. So he could get back to form. Maybe he battled an injury. We don't know. You lose Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, which is huge. Both of those guys are arguably top 5 wide receivers in this year's draft. But believe it or not, Arizona State pumps out freaking wide receivers. Iowa State pumps out wide receivers. I mean, they do a really good. I mean, I'm pretty sure Alan Lazard played there.
Yep, Alan Lazard went there.
So I mean, they do a decent job of making guys. And honestly, now that I'm saying this out loud, I was confusing them with Arizona State because I'm thinking of Brandon Ayuk and I was thinking of Carson Strong, which were both Arizona State guys.
Jalen Strong,
yeah. Carson Strong was the quarterback from Nevada.
Well, I thought Carson Strong. I'm thinking Carson Steele. So many different.
Carson Steele, hell of a name. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. You should have came on the show. But anyway, I like Iowa State. I think because of the consistency, you have the same head coach. They did lose a lot of that team, of that roster, but they kept Rocco Beck. And you keep him there. You replace a couple wide receivers. You get Matt Campbell. I mean, the culture is there. And I believe in culture teams. Teams that have good culture very seldom have bad years. I mean, you look at Utah. That was an outlier last year. Usually, every single year they're in there and they're competing. So, give me Iowa State as my second contender.
If I was going to pick a second contender, it would be Kansas State, just because they won 9 games last year. Avery Johnson's back. I think Chris Kleiman's a really good coach.
Yeah,
and for them this year, their schedule. I mean,
the running back's back too. What's
Edwards?
Dylan
Edwards.
Dylan Edwards is back, and he's phenomenal. I thought he was going to go into the draft this year.
But the schedule, non-conference wise, they got North Dakota, they got Army, and they've got I don't know who they technically have. Everybody else's conference game, unless they're playing a non-conference game that's a conference game. I don't think they're playing 10, unless their Iowa State game is technically a non-conference game.
Last year, Iowa State played a team that was a non-conference conference game. I think they played BYU or something, and it was
Arizona, UCF, Baylor, TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Utah, Colorado. Those are all Big 12 teams.
Yeah, so one of them probably doesn't count.
Yeah, they might be the Iowa State game because they're playing that one in Dublin. But I think that Kansas State is a contender. I mean, they just seem to win under Chris Kleiman, and there's no reason to think that they wouldn't find a way to win another, 9 games this year, even 10 games. The Big 12 is just such a crapshoot this year, though.
Yeah.
Pretenders, one team that you mentioned had a good culture. I am marking Utah as a pretender this year.
I don't blame you. They have a lot of stink on them from last year.
They lost 7 straight games in the middle of the season last year. Quarterback play was terrible. They went out and got Devin Dampier from New Mexico, who went 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Just doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies at the quarterback position.
Which shocks me. Go ahead.
Not that they need one, like, because Cam Rising, when he was there, like, was not a stats guy. Was not somebody that went out and threw for 3,800 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 8-9 interceptions. Cam Rising was a grittier guy, but a guy that has just as many interceptions as touchdowns does not give me the warm and fuzzies. Utah doesn't need a great quarterback play. Typically, they've run through quarterbacks the last couple of years, but going 5-7 last year, I would like to see more stability at the quarterback position before I considered them actually a contender. I know Kyle Whittingham's a good coach, but I'm just not sold on Utah being a contender. I think they make a bowl game, but I don't think they're anywhere near the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that. I've got Colorado. I'm going to sound like a hater, but you lose Shador, you lose Travis Hunter, and this goes back to our conversation we had a few weeks ago. You had 2 first-round guys. You couldn't win your conference. And I think they have them at 6.5 this year. Yeah, 6.5 wins.
I feel it's high.
Caden Salter's coming in from Liberty, who I really like. And then you got Julian Lewis coming in as the freshman quarterback phenom. So nothing else outside of that does anything for me. I don't know enough about their skill position players. They're returning a lot of their offensive line. The defense has always been iffy at best. If anybody considers them to be at the cream of the crop of the Big 12, I think they're sadly mistaken. I like what Deion does for the most part. I like how like we said, I like how he brings eyes to the program. I like how he's energized that program. He's brought a lot of controversy, but with controversy comes publicity. With publicity comes money. And they've been able to go out and get a guy like Julian Lewis and a guy like Caden Salters out of the portal. But I don't think Caden Salters is enough for me to think you're going to go in there and win that conference. I mean, again, you look at Kansas State, you look at Arizona State, you look at Iowa State, you look at my sleeper, who we're about to talk about in a minute, and your sleeper. I just don't think they can compete with those teams.
When you look up how many transfers they had, they lost a ton of guys to the portal again, and they brought in a ton of guys from the portal once again. Caden Salters is not better than Shedeur Sanders. Caden Salters is a good stopgap when you try to get to Julian Lewis.
Well, we don't know how good. It's a completely different style.
Yeah, and I don't know what the offense and defensive line are going to look at. They thought that Dayan Hayes was going to be a really good defensive end for them coming over from Pitt. He transferred out. There's a lot of different guys on this program that I'm just – what are we going to get? Last year we thought that their running back who came from Ohio State, who I'm blanking on his name, Colorado brought in a running back, and I cannot think of his name right now. But they thought that he was going to be – they thought he was going to be a stud. I can find it real quick. It was Dallin Hayden.
Dallin Hayden, yep.
They brought in Dallin Hayden from Ohio State. They brought in a couple guys, and they brought in a ton of offensive skill player and defensive skill player transfers. They played well. They had a chance to make the Big 12 championship game, but losing Shedeur Sanders, losing Travis Hunter, losing Hunter's like losing 3 guys, honestly. Yeah. You talk about the fact that he's playing offense and defense. I am not sold that this team is going to even be in a bowl game. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll win 6-7 games. But Georgia Tech is not an easy game. They get a very easy one against Delaware then. They also have Houston and Miami, which they should win. But then after that, everything's a toss-up. BYU, TCU, Iowa State, Utah, Arizona, West Virginia, Arizona State, Kansas State. I mean, we said Arizona State and Kansas State are contenders. I said Utah's a pretender, but they could prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Iowa State was one of your,
but they're not. You're not going to walk over them. They're not pushovers.
Iowa State was one of your pretenders. When we get into sleepers, TCU is one of my sleepers. I think TCU could secretly walk their way into the Big 12 championship game.
Josh Hoover's a hell of a quarterback, and I know you have a note there on him, but
Josh Hoover returning. There was a lot of talk that he might leave or he might go into the portal somewhere. Him coming back, I want to say he was like top 5 in the country in passing yards last year.
Yeah,
he he was slinging the rock around. Last year, he finished with almost 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He was absolutely slinging the rock around. And he was doing it against good defenses, too.
Yeah.
You don't accidentally throw 4,000 yards.
No. No. And not turn the ball over is, a lot. Like, so he didn't turn the ball over that much. I like Josh Hoover. And a lot of teams wanted him. A lot of teams were jumping in the portal to try to get him. Who else did we talk about? Like Rocco Beck, Sam Levitt. A lot of teams are trying to pluck these Big 12 quarterbacks out of their schools, and
they know they're good. They know they're good. So another year, Josh Hoover, first year starting last year. This year, you got another year of experience under your belt. I think that TCU could be looking at 8-9 wins for sure. Right now, their over under for wins is sitting at 6.5. That feels like a very easy over to me.
Do you think 8 wins is enough? An 8-win team, let's say you play 9 conference games, you win 7 conference games. Is winning 7 conference games enough to win the Big 12 or to make the championship, I guess?
You might get stuck in those weird tiebreakers, but I think if you go 7-2,
I think that's what we're going to see again.
I think you go 7-2. I mean, you're sitting prime in position. If you 8-1, you're in.
Yeah.
If you go 7-2, you're putting it up to fate on if you make the championship or not.
You're rolling the dice. Speaking of sleepers from last year, Kansas is a team that I have as a sleeper this year. I have it as a dark horse last year. I was really high on Kansas. Believe it or not, Kansas was not as bad as their record said they were. They lost 7 games, and out of those 7 games, go ahead.
Yeah. I'd say they lost 7 games, but they started 1-5 and finished 4-2.
Right, and out of the 7 games they lost, 5 of them were by 1 score. One of them was by 10, and then the other one was a blowout. They got blown out by Arizona State, I believe. So they were a really good football team. Jalen Daniels comes back. They lose Devin Neal, which hurts. That's he's a really good player, but they bring back 4 out of 5 offensive linemen. They bring back just a lot of their talent, and I like what Lance Leipold's doing over there. He's brought Kansas back into being relevant. So we'll see. I mean, they've got a couple. They replaced their entire wide receiver core. They replaced their tight end, which stinks. I don't know, but you keep your core. They kept their core. They only lost really 3 guys on defense that were contributing heavily, and especially Kobe Bryant. I think Kobe Bryant's going to be missed. Oh, excuse me, not 3 guys. They lost 6, but Kobe Bryant was the big one that lost. They brought in a lot in the transfer portal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys on defense. Not all starters, but 9 guys on defense. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys on offense. Again, not all starters, but they really went after the transfer portal. And they got some guys from some pretty big schools. I'm pretty sure they pulled a guy from Alabama. Yeah, Emmanuel Henderson from Alabama, wide receiver. So they're getting guys who aren't quite getting up to the top of those top echelon teams, not being able to, break the lineup. Who knows? They come in there and they come in the Big 12. They let it rip with Jalen Daniels, and we'll see what happens. So I have them as a sleeper. I really, really think they could compete and they could play, dream breaker for a lot of teams that think they're going to make it to the conference championship and then lose to Kansas. So I'm high on Kansas this year.
One other sleeper team, BYU, I think has to be included in there. Jake Retzlaff is back. Fun fact, when you go to the BYU page on Wikipedia, at least, and you look at, guys transferring in, transferring out, they also have 2024 return missionaries for all the guys coming back from their mission trips.
Transfer from the Lord, baby.
They entered the portal and returned to the program.
That's pretty funny.
They also have notes about their recruits because some of them already went on their mission, say mission prior to enrolling. So if they're going to leave.
They're going to go, baby. They're going to be 30 years by the time they're a senior, 30 years old, but that's going to be all right.
So BYU's schedule is friendly to start out. They get Portland State, they get Stanford, because who knows what that Stanford program is going to be. It's an absolute dumpster fire. And they get East Carolina. But once you get into, as we've talked about, it's hard to know what's going to happen when you get in the Big 12 schedule. Last year, BYU beat SMU, and we thought that was a major upset. And then we get to the middle of the year and go, BYU beating SMU by 3 points. It's actually a good game for both of them.
BYU was seconds away from ruining Arizona State's season.
Yeah.
I mean,
BYU nearly made the college football playoff last year.
Yeah, think about that. That would have been the Fighting John Smiths would have been there on our doorstep.
They lost 2 games by a combined 8 points, or what is that? 9 points. 4, 8 points, 5 and 9 points. I can't math.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been
2 games by combined 9 points.
And it wouldn't have been the first time that some Mormons, ruined your Saturday because they come up to your doorstep early in the morning.
Must be your doors. Doesn't happen in my area. But I think BYU. I think Jake Retzlaff's back. I think that's another big name quarterback that could be back and help team win the Big 12. All right, dumpster fires.
I love yours.
I have one. Okay, UCF. I know that Scott Frost is back. It has nothing to do with Scott Frost. It's the fact that they hired Alex Grinch.
Which has everything to do with Scott Frost.
If you hire Alex Grinch to be on your coaching staff, period, whatsoever, and I believe he's defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he is. But let's be positive, Jake. You know what that means?
I am positive he's going to have the worst defense in college football.
I am positive we get to see Jake's Alex Grinch watch come back.
Ooh, that is going to make a return this year. I still have the spreadsheet. I'll just have to go and add a line.
I love it. I can't wait.
Because I don't understand. You go to his bio. Somehow he was a 2-time Royals Award semifinalist. Like, dude, they not watch football? Like, what on his defense ever said, be like, yeah, that guy might be one of the best assistants in the country?
I don't know. Maybe your Alex Grinch watch will explain that to us.
The fun part is when you go look at his bio, it doesn't talk about. Oh no, there it is about USC. They talk about his turnover margin. They don't talk anything else about defense. They are very meticulous in his bio here about not talking about all the bad stuff that he did.
Yeah, his agent definitely wrote that Wikipedia page.
Yeah,
but other than that, you also lost RJ Harvey, the running back, who was a freaking stud over there at UCF. Could not tell you who's playing quarterback. I know KJ Jefferson is not playing quarterback there anymore. So what are they doing?
I don't know what to make out of UCF this year.
You do. Their defense is going to be boo-boo.
The defense is going to be bad. But I want to think Scott Frost is going to come home and that he is going to be a good coach.
He won a national championship last time he was there.
He did. But a lot of times when these coaches circle back around, it's not as good as it was the first time around. So
who's last time we saw that?
So we saw Bobby Petrino do it at Louisville.
That's true, yep.
Now Lamar Jackson was there and he did well, but he flamed out pretty hard. Greg Schiano is doing it at Rutgers, and I would say it's not as.
I think it's going better than we thought it would.
It's also a much harder situation when you're in the Big East versus when you're in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think, I thought there was somebody else who just did it recently too. Rich Rod is at
West Virginia,
so we'll see how that one does. I think that's going to be a pretty rough first year. They've lost a ton of guys to the portal. Rich Rod also has some iffy past issues, but he won at Jacksonville State. So, I mean, it was a brand new, basically, program to Division I, and he was winning 9 games. So the Big 12 is basically just a chaotic area. So what can he do there? But Scott Frost, I'm just not sure it's going to have the same magic this time around, even to get to like 8 or 9 wins this season.
Yeah, well, you got him as dumpster fire, and we know why.
I just don't think it's going to work out well. I think that in 3 years they're going to look at that and be like, this was not the right decision. We need to get rid of him. But I understand why they went for him, because a lot of these.
Oh, you're talking about Scott Frost? You're talking about
Scott Frost, not Alex.
Okay.
Alex Grinch is inexcusable. Alex Grinch is inexcusable. Alex Grinch should be coaching JV football in Missouri.
Don't disrespect JV football in Missouri. The show me state. And you know what? He would show them bad defense.
He would show them very bad defense. But I understand why you went for Scott Frost, because especially now in the age where even Power 4 football programs, their coaches are leaving to go be assistants at, high Power 4 or the NFL. We saw it with Chip Kelly. We saw it with Jeff Hafley. Like, guys, if they're not in a great position, they're going to leave for something that is a little bit more secure, or when they don't have to take on as much responsibility.
Well, and Scott Frost is a good coach. All joking aside, he struggled at Nebraska, but everyone has struggled at Nebraska that's gone there. So I like Scott Frost. I like the hire. Just the Alex Grinch decision was not good.
Yeah, it was a very, very poor choice. I'll be excited to see how bad the defense is, especially in the secondary.
Yeah, we will keep you updated weekly.
I am very excited for my Scott. Even UCF fans were mad about that. Usually every fan base, when they hire their coaches, there's always that glimmer of hope being like, yeah, he did this. Even UCF fans were like, are you kidding me? We hired like the worst defensive coordinator to be the defensive coordinator. It wasn't even like Wisconsin when they hired him just to be safeties. Just do that portion. No, you literally hired him to run the defense with an offensive-minded coach who can't even help with the deficiencies, because Scott Frost is an offensive-minded coach. He cannot even help with the deficiencies on defense.
Well, Jake, it's not like they had any data to go back up on and say prove why he wouldn't be good at that job. But there's no way they could have found that information.
There's nobody on the internet that was posting information about how bad Scott Frost was, or not about Alex Grinch.
My dumpster fire, speaking of dumpster fires, was between two teams, Oklahoma State and Arizona. I don't think we're about to get a guest. We're about to get a guest on the show real quick. Speaking of poop, I've got a guest on the show. We've got a sleeping baby. First time guest, so we're going to interview her. She is a football gal. She came to talk. What do you think? Okay, yeah, Arizona. I'm going with Arizona as my dumpster fire team.
I was going to say, what kind of offense does she like to run?
She likes the run and gun. She likes to run her mouth on my wife's teat and gun a turd right out of there. But, Arizona's definitely my pick. You got Noah Fafita coming back, which is a positive, but you lose Ted McMillan. They didn't really have much going for them outside of that anyway. I'm not high on what Arizona's been doing, what they've been transitioning to. Oklahoma State was my second choice there. I think there's just too much going on between Mike Gundy and the brass there, and I think it's distracting. I think it can move them in the wrong direction. Alan Bowman's probably coming back for his 34th year, but in all seriousness, I think all that stuff going on behind the scenes outside the football field with Alan Bowman or with Matt Gundy is going to cost them.
All right, and to end today, we're going to do a little blind ranking. 10 quarterbacks. William's going to blind rank 10 college quarterbacks. All these guys are basically since 2000, more like probably like 2005, for being honest. 1 through 10. So if you've never seen these before, I'm going to give him a quarterback. He's going to put him in a spot. We'll see where he ranks them and if his rankings are actually good at the end, or if he completely screws it up and puts players way too high up that they shouldn't be too high up.
No way I'd ever do that.
No way. All right.
I'm taking notes while I do this too.
First quarterback I have here for you. We're going to go Pat White.
Pat White. Oh. Give me 4.
Give you 4. Okay. That's a pretty good spot.
Oh, you're the man. Thank you. That's going to be helpful.
That's a pretty good spot. What's your reasoning behind that?
I mean, well, and is this total yards or is this passing yards?
It's not. So it's not as like total yards. Like, who would you like? These are going to be 10 quarterbacks that based off of how good they were.
I see. So very subjective. So definitely he was a dual threat, dual threat.
You still want him at 4 knowing that.
Right.
You still want him at 4 knowing that this is the.
Oh yeah, because there's been better quarterbacks than him since 2000. I would even maybe err on putting him at 5. I think Pat White is. You know what? Put him at 5. I want him at 5 because Pat White is the perfect middle ground from the last 20 years of football.
Okay.
He could run it, he could throw it. He was the guy in West Virginia's heyday. So give me Pat White at 5. I like that.
Okay. I think it's a good spot. We'll see where we go from here. Let's go Colt McCoy.
I don't know who else is on this list. This is scary, but I'm kind of a Colt McCoy hater.
Okay.
Let's go 7. Colt McCoy at 7.
Okay.
He was good. He led Texas to a national championship runner up. Now, potentially they would have won had he not gotten hurt. I don't know. Who knows? So I got him at 7. I think he was a good quarterback. And he's got the perfect quarterback name.
He does, especially for a Texas quarterback.
Yeah, Colt McCoy. You couldn't have written that. That's a creative player.
All right, let's go next one. Let's go Jake Fromm.
Jake 10.
That was fast.
Jake Fromm he was good before he broke his ankle, and then you sent him off to Washington, and that was that. Nope. I'm
you're thinking of Jake Easton.
Yeah, Jake Fromm, same. Yeah, 10. I was not a fan of Jake Fromm.
Dennis Dixon.
Ooh, I love Dennis Dixon. Put him at.
Dennis Dixon's kind of from that same Pat White mold.
I was about to say he's Walmart Pat White.
Walmart Pat White. I was
Pat White.
Okay.
You think he was better than Pat White? He had a better NFL career, but they're like the same person. Put him at 6.
Okay.
I would take Pat White over Dennis Dixon. Maybe it's because of the Tavon Austin highlights. I don't know.
That is true. Have you shown your son the Tavon Austin highlights?
You know what? I haven't.
Have you sat him down and made him watch them yet?
Please, I hope DSS isn't listening to this because I have not shown my son that, and that's abuse. He's watching that tomorrow.
It sounds like this is happening within the next couple of days.
Yes. Sorry, DSS. Do not take my son from me because
sit down, watch this, watch the legend, Tavon Austin. Yeah. All right, Baker Mayfield.
4, 3,
3,
4,
3,
4, 3, 4.
4. Okay.
I'm banking on a Cam Newton and being there. I'm banking on a Joe Pickett. I don't know. Baker Mayfield 4. I feel comfortable with that.
Here's one you'll like. Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, stick my boy. He's top 3 for sure. This worked out perfectly. But would I have him above a Cam Newton? I don't know.
You don't know who's left. That's the thing.
Yeah.
This could be.
All right. You know what? I'm gonna be biased. Put him at 1.
Put him at 1. Okay.
Put him at 1.
Okay. I think there's a way to justify that as of right now.
He won the national championship as a freshman, won again as a sophomore, went to the playoff in an abbreviated weird season in his 3rd year, number 1 overall pick in the draft. Just a phenomenal football player.
It's also important to remember this is based off of college, not the NFL. Because if we were basing this stuff off NFL, things would be very, very different. Like Colt McCoy spent like 13 years in the NFL. Meanwhile, Dennis Dixon and Pat White spent like nothing.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield.
Cars.
Yeah. All right. Dwayne Haskins.
I have him similar to Colt McCoy, actually.
Okay.
So I'd go 8. Did Dwayne Haskins was not the starting quarterback in y'all's national championship, was he? 2014?
No. Dwayne Haskins was only a 1-year starter at Ohio State and threw for like 5,000 yards.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
They had no defense, and he just aired it out the whole time. Okay, so we got 3 quarterbacks left. I think I know how we're going to end this. I think I know how it's going to go, and I think you're going to be okay with these rankings. Let's go with Tim Tebow.
2.
I think that's a pretty obvious answer there.
I think he's the second best quarterback of all time. Maybe third.
Cam?
Cam is my number one quarterback of all time. I mean, you only have a single.
That Auburn team was terrible without him.
Yeah, that's what people don't realize. Like everybody else sucked. They had one guy, Nick Fairley, who was decent, had a terrible NFL career. But what he did, he changed college football. I mean, after that, you had to have a running quarterback. I mean, that was the recipe. And yes, it was one season, but that season was one of the greatest football seasons. If you go back and watch that Iron Bowl, what's it, the 2010 Iron Bowl?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't walk away from that game. And in every game they played, almost every game they played, they had to come back. They had to come back to beat Clemson. They had to come back to beat South Carolina in the regular season. They beat the bricks off of them in the SEC championship game. They came back against Alabama to beat them. I mean, they just fought. They just fought. And anyway, this isn't about Cam Newton. Tim Tebow, same thing. Not as good of a passer, but just a dog.
So we got 3 and 9 left. Very, very different spots here.
Yeah, I've set
and I
myself up
think
bad.
that doesn't matter which name I say here. They're going to end up in their right spots. Shedeur Sanders.
9.
And then the last one left, Caleb Williams.
Oh.
Caleb Williams at 3?
I like it at 3. I would have rather had Baker Mayfield in front of him, but I like Caleb. I can live with Caleb Williams at 3.
So, recapping, so at 1 you had Trevor Lawrence, 2 Tim Tebow, 3 Caleb Williams, 4 Baker Mayfield, 5 Pat White, 6 Dennis Dixon, 7 Colt McCoy, 8 Dwayne Haskins, 9 Shedeur Sanders, 10 Jake Fromm. I think that's a pretty good list.
It's a good list. I mean, honestly, like
you could nitpick it a little bit, but I think it's a pretty good list.
If you switch Trevor Lawrence and Tim Tebow, I wouldn't be mad. And if you switch Caleb Williams and Baker Mayfield, I wouldn't be mad. Other than that, I think it's really good.
In general, with not knowing what comes next, I understand why Trevor Lawrence, you have him up there. Also, a little bit of bias from you. You have no idea what's coming after that. But, I think if you just swap the top 2, I think you could justify the rest of them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, unless somebody hates Clemson or loves Florida, I don't think anybody. I think you could have an argument with a college football fan between Trevor Lawrence and Tim Tebow.
I don't think we could, but you're welcome to believe that.
You could have an argument because, oh shit, you probably couldn't. But Tim Tebow is phenomenal. Tim Tebow is one of the all-time best.
Tim Tebow might be. Tim Tebow is probably, like you said, he's probably one of the top 5 college football quarterbacks of all time.
Trevor Lawrence
was great.
Did Trevor Lawrence ever lose to Ole Miss?
Did he ever play Ole Miss?
That's not what I asked.
Does Trevor Lawrence have a statue of him engraved with a speech outside of the stadium?
No. I got a funny story about Tim Tebow. Can I share a funny story about Tim Tebow?
Yes.
So Dabo invited him to come to a practice and come see the facilities and come talk with the team, whatever. And I was doing, it's called a hyperextension. So you lock it up here and it's reverse. So my legs are going up and down, not my front. And I almost kicked this dude. And generally I'm a pretty polite guy. I'm quick to apologize. But this guy almost bumps into me while I'm doing my reverse hyperextensions. And he said, "Excuse me." I said, "Yeah, whatever, man. You're good." Like I'm in the zone, like I was, whatever. Like, and then I get off the hyperextension. I look over and it's freaking Tim Tebow.
You almost kicked Tim Tebow.
Yeah, he comes to practice that day, or comes to the team meeting that day, and Coach Sweeney, hey, give us a speech. Give us a fire up speech. Dude was not prepared. Gave a fired up speech. It was like, okay, that was Tim Tebow. Like we kind of expected that. Fast forward to the end of that year. We're about to play in the national championship game. They're doing national championship media, and I had a little milk mustache because all the offensive linemen are like, hey, we're going to grow out our beards. I'm like, hey, I haven't hit puberty yet, even though I'm 22 years old. So I'm going to do a little mustache. So we went behind Tim Tebow and started doing the Tebow. He was laughing, cracking up, going back and forth. And I said, who eats white mac and cheese? That's so lame. Like, real mac and cheese is yellow. And he goes, who walks around with a chocolate milk mustache and thinks they're cool? And I was like, all right. So Tim
Humbled
Tebow.
by Tim Tebow pretty bad.
Humbled by Tim Tebow. Well, no, it's because he's paying me back for being rude to him in the weight room. So
That's fair.
we're even. Me and Tim Tebow are even. Trevor Lawrence never talked trash about my mustache and never got kicked by me in the weight room. Therefore, Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback than Tim Tebow.
Love the justification. Love the justification. Well, that does it for this week's episode. Next week, we'll be back doing Big Ten. Is that
Big
what
10?
we're Big Ten? Big Ten next week, following by the SEC. As we get into, we also have the NFL draft tomorrow night. Any hot takes? Any expectation? I like watching the NFL draft. I don't do anything. I don't pay attention.
I
all the draft boards.
I love the NFL draft. Let me tell you a couple of things I think is going to happen. Number one, I don't think Ted McMillan's going to be the first wide receiver off the board.
Okay, so I posed this, but technically Travis Hunter is going to be the first wide receiver, but I don't count him as that.
First true wide receiver off the board, because some teams see Travis Hunter as a corner. What I've heard is that Travis Hunter is a wide receiver, majors at wide receiver, minors in corner is what I've seen. But Ted McMillan, the first true wide receiver, will not be the first true wide receiver off the board. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the fourth guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the second round. Also, Shedeur Sanders, I think he goes to Pittsburgh later.
That's what a lot of the people in the know are saying, that Mike Tomlin really wants him.
Or somebody comes in to get him late. Let's see, what's another hot take? I think Matthew Golden is going to be the first wide receiver taken. I think Matthew Golden out of Texas. I think people have him ranked a lot higher than the general public think. Phenomenal football player.
Other than Ashton Jeanty, where do you think any other running backs go first round?
I think TreVeyon Henderson could. And I think what's setting him apart right now is he does everything that a running back needs to do, right? He can catch the ball, he can run, he can do all these things. But the thing that him and Quinshawn Judkins did the best was pass blocking. They're very high-rated pass blockers. And the second thing they did was they had other guys with them. So there's not a lot of tread on TreVeyon Henderson's tires. So you got a guy. I mean, Ashton Jeanty, phenomenal talent. He ran the ball 5 million times last year and the year before that. You got TreVeyon Henderson, who's had a really good backup. He didn't have to be the bell cow. So the stuff he brings,
only ran the ball like 150 times last year.
Right. So I mean,
they split the carries,
and it got the job done. So I would not be surprised to see him go. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see any wide receivers go in the first round. I'd be a little surprised, but not very surprised. I think there's going to be one quarterback taken in the first round, maybe two if somebody trades back in, or if Pittsburgh actually does. I think Pittsburgh smoke screening people. I don't think they're going to take Shedeur.
I think Tyler Shuck goes way higher than he's supposed to.
That's what. So some teams have them as the best quarterback on the board. I don't buy it.
I don't know how you can watch Tyler Shuck and Cam Ward and being like, yeah, I want Tyler Shuck and his 7 years of college football experience.
I think the thing that you would say is, okay, Cam Ward has turnover problems. Tyler Shuck doesn't. But you know what Cam Ward doesn't have? I saw a
fun fact about Tyler Shuck.
Go ahead.
You know that he committed to Willie. Why am I blanking on the Florida State quarterback?
Willie Taggart.
You know he committed to Willie Taggart at Oregon.
I did not.
When he committed, he was committed to Willie Taggart at Oregon.
That is insane.
That's how long he's been in college football.
Holy cow! I'm pretty sure Willie Taggart was coaching when I was there.
Yeah,
he was.
Willie Taggart.
He was at Oregon in 2016.
Yeah. So Tyler Shuck technically committed to Willie Taggart because he was there. He was only there at Oregon 2017. And then I believe he enrolled in 2018 or 19. I don't remember.
That's
Tyler
wild.
Shuck's been in college football for way too long, and nobody should draft him because we saw what happened with Brandon Weeden when you draft a super old quarterback.
And then I have one sad stat that I really don't want to share, but I'm going to show you that I'm not biased. So I'm going to move my head this way and show my high school jersey, not my Clemson jersey, so you know I'm not biased. I think Clemson's 6-year streak of first-round draft picks comes to an end tomorrow night.
Ohio State has a 9-year going on right now, and it should continue, but it's not a guarantee to continue.
It's going to continue. And Emeka Egbuka has a good chance to go first round.
Josh Simmons probably is.
Josh Simmons is your best bet. Trevion Henderson is a wild card, but Josh Simmons is your best bet.
And then there's some other ones like Donovan Jackson. If somebody falls in love with him and loves the flexibility, there's a lot of guys who could go between 20 and 30. There's not many guys that are going to go before that.
JT Tumalau could go in the 30 range. I don't think so. I think people might be in love with his traits.
There's also at the end of the first round, there's all sorts of chaos that starts happening when teams start to jump back into the first round because everybody wants that 30, 31, 32 pick because you get the extra year out of the guys.
Yeah. And we also could get 7 or 8 edge rushers go in the first round. I think it's a very heavy edge rush class.
Do you think the first 3 go Ward, Hunter, Abdul Carter?
Yeah. And I think in that order. I think the draft starts at 4.
Yeah, usually we all look and go, well, the draft starts at X. I think tomorrow the draft starts at 4. I think I agree. But the Giants have been known to do some stupid stuff before, so have the Browns. Good Lord, the Browns have done some stupid stuff before.
Yeah. So who picks 4th? I'm blanking.
I'm blanking on it too. But I think that the Browns are going to draft Travis Hunter. I don't think the Browns know what to do with Travis Hunter, though.
I don't know. I like Kevin Stefanski. I think Kevin Stefanski is Stefanski.
Yeah, well, it's Cleveland.
That's true.
4 is the Patriots, 5 is the Jags, 6 is the Raiders. So all it takes for the Raiders to decide to trade.
That's what I wanted to say. I could see Tyler Warren going in the top 10 picks. I could see Tyler Warren going to Jacksonville. I
could see that happening. I thought you were going to say the Raiders, and I was like, the Raiders have too many tight ends already.
Now the episode's over.
Now the episode's over. Appreciate everybody joining in. We were not going to recap the NFL draft next week. That was our 5 minutes of NFL draft coverage for this year.
That's right.
Next week, we'll be back with Big Ten and more blind rankings. Next week, I'm going to do some running back blind rankings and see if I can see what I can do with that with running backs. So appreciate everybody joining in, and we'll be back again next week.